Hi, I'm Tom Merrills from TJM Law, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the situation where you have a missing landlord or absent freeholder as they're commonly known. Missing freeholder scenarios are common with blocks of 2 to 3 flats and generally cause problems with selling the flat or extending the term of the flat and maintenance or management of the building. So, what's the procedure for buying the freehold and then extending or changing the leases afterwards? The first step, although it is not necessary, is to obtain a valuation report so that you can simply establish what your likely exposure to the purchase price is going to be. As I'll explain later on, you'll need to appoint a separate surveyor for the purposes of preparing a valuation report that's to be carried out on behalf of the court, so you cannot use your current valuation report if you have one done at this stage. The next stage is to piece together a bit of the background surrounding the missing freeholder, i.e. whether any attempts have been made to locate the freeholder's whereabouts, any correspondence between you and the freeholder, how long ago that was, etc, etc. Assuming we agree the freeholder's whereabouts remains unknown, then we instruct an inquiry agent who does various searches and comes back with a report. The report usually states that the freeholder's whereabouts remains unknown, and then we move on to the next stage, which is to place an advert in a quality newspaper, usually the Times newspaper, and we allow 2 to 3 weeks to pass before going on to the next stage. Bear in mind that during any of these preliminary stages, if the freeholder's whereabouts does become known, then we have to write to the freeholder and at least give the freeholder opportunity to respond before we can press on to the next stage. Now, assuming at this stage we have had no response from the freeholder whatsoever, then we make an application to the court. A court date is made. There is a hearing, obviously with the absent freeholder not being there, and the court would ordinarily rubber stamp the court order that we prepare, and after that we then need to appoint a surveyor. Now, the surveyor will prepare a valuation report, a reasonable and fair value of the freehold title, and that valuer has to be appointed by the Lands Tribunal and must carry out the report on behalf of the court. Once that valuation report is in, assuming that we agree with the figures, then we simply calculate the amount to pay into court, send the funds to the court, obtain a receipt, and then we deal with the conveyancing aspect, which is to send all the paperwork to the land registry to ask them to transfer the freehold title into your names. And that, in a nutshell, is the procedure for acquiring the freehold where there's a missing freeholder. In terms of the total costs, ordinarily you may think that because you're having to make a court application that the proceedings are very expensive. In fact, and in particular where you have leases that are under 80 years remaining, the total cost is usually the same or less expensive than if the freeholder was around. Let me explain. Without the freeholder there to fight his or her or their corner, the freehold purchase price is unlikely to be favourable to the freeholder. Secondly, where the leases have less than 80 years remaining, in normal circumstances there would be a valuation factor known as marriage value payable to the, well, effectively paid into court. Let me just explain a little bit more about marriage value. It can mean effectively a few £1,000s per flat owner that you would pay if your leases have less than 80 years remaining. Because we proceed under different legislation, that marriage value is not payable, and therefore you can potentially save many thousands of pounds by proceeding under the different legislation that we suggest. Thank you for watching. I'm Tom from TJM Law. My details follow in just a moment.